Greetings, I am Liz and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together.
Right.
Let's do this. Let's just, try not to get too creeped out by the creepiness of this creep fest.
Or just too grossed out.
There's
Honestly, mostly what I'm getting is just like, ew.
So I am solidly getting like mold spores everywhere, but also like I know what decomposing grass smells like and what high mold, low oxygen environments such as a closed pantry door smell like.
I mean, you can get that if you literally just have food rotting in the fridge.
I know, and just, ew.
Alright, only then did I realise how weak the floor seemed to be in this room and stepped back. I had no intention of falling through whatever waited for me in the basement. I returned to the living room where I had first entered the house. I hadn't really looked around it when I first got here. It was totally trashed. The furniture was a mess. The floor was covered in junk, and some sort of water appeared to drip down from the attic onto the sofa, which was coated in white mold.
I told you, mold! Ah!
What looked like blood stained the floor and seeped into the musty sofa. It couldn't be more than a month or two old.
That is so
How
accurate.
do you know?
Because, you watch crime thrillers.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I actually have run into people who are really like, well, I watch these things all the time. And you're like, that's for entertainment.
I'm also like, you seem real confident of your statement. I've had people literally just be like, wow, it looks still fresh. And I'm like, how can you tell?
How can you tell? It's actually even been a thing that they have actually talked about. And this is not a controversial statement. So my understanding is actually that even the field of forensics is actually highly debated on, and because they still aren't very good at it, but it is better than it used to, but it is still pretty bad. Like determining like blood spray and like, let's just, figure out a scene. Like,
I was gonna say,
even DNA is still fucked up on.
I would say the physical science of it has gotten pretty good, and we've exonerated a lot of people through DNA.
Yes.
I was gonna say, but there's still errors that can happen there, because we're still, despite having mapped the human genome, we're still learning things. And I was gonna say, and like things like blood spatter, they have found it can actually be other behaviors mimicking what is the arterial spray.
Yeah, it's really
and
good
such like that.
This isn't good. Hopefully someone just had a minor accident.
And, dropped a pint of blood on the
Which
floor.
made them use about 4 litres of blood, which is actually all the human body has.
I think
as
so,
far as
yeah.
I remember, which means they died.
Yes.
It's old, though. I'm sure any murderer who lived here would have left ages ago. The smell probably drove them off. I stepped a little further into the room and almost tripped over something.
Props to the artist for making it very, very clear with their art choice that this is an incredibly moldy environment right out the gate. Like, that is exactly what freaking mold up walls looks like.
Yeah, it's real gross.
But, this is very well done.
Unclean. A video game cartridge? I didn't look to be as dusty, as decrepit as the rest of the house, and definitely wasn't old enough to be from the previous owners. Some brown hairs and white wool blocked the pins, and an image printed on the front was scratched, but still readable. Gunshoot 4. Nice. I really enjoyed Gunshoot 3. It sounds like you want to keep it. Like, you are not really thrown off by how gross it looks at all.
It also doesn't look as gross as the other things. It's not covered with mold and slime. It's just got some wool in it.
Yep.
And wool is the prevailing consistent clue of this game other than daffodils.
I decided to keep it. I figured there wasn't much use lying around in this cottage, so I decided to take it with me. Maybe I could wind down with it. So I got back to my room, on the ceiling a small trapdoor led to the attic, but there didn't seem to be any way up to it. I only now noticed the harsh carvings that had been dug into the wall and inlaid with gold paint.
Huh, that's interesting. But I was going to say, I love how inside this house there's supposed to be like a full freaking basement and a full freaking upstairs
I
and
think that's
attic.
Part of the joke.
And it's this teeny tiny little box. I think it is too, but I'm just like, hee hee.
Dozens of identical eyes had been watching me. I found myself drawn to them. The house suddenly shuddered and I almost collapsed. I regained my footing. Thankfully the house had remained standing. I realised I stood directly in front of the scrollings, mere inches from the largest of the eyes. That's strange. I'm sure I was there at the other side of the room when I noticed this mess. I must have stumbled over here when the house shook without realising it. I stepped back and turned away from the drawings to try to avoid them for now. There didn't seem to be much more to see on the ground floor, and I still hadn't found that book. There was only one thing for it. I'd have to go into the dark, dingy basement. I forced the door open on its rusted hinges and made my way down the stone stairs.
Down you go.
The decaying air grew worse with each step. This better not take long. The air in this place is probably cutting years off of my life.
And or it's a confined space and you will actually suffocate.
More feathers.
But also, my dear, I think it's really interesting that the upstairs, which has windows, is much dimmer than the downstairs, which is a basement and probably doesn't.
It's true. The stairs emerged into a large basement, almost as big as the entire ground floor. My eyes were immediately drawn to the horrific scene at the centre of the room. What is this? Are those... 2 skulls were positioned around the chipped remains of some kind of symbol etched onto the floor.
It's the same eyeball.
It is the same eyeball. I better look around quickly. I really don't want to stay here much longer. After a closer examination, it was clear the skulls belonged to a pair of squirrels. Oh, gosh. So much for LaRosa's Pacific Cruise theory. They both seem adult-sized, though, which means the girl is missing.
People squirrels.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't find her here. I think that's why there was such a strong freak out, honestly.
Which I'm sure, but I'm just like, given that you had plushies of animals, I'm like, so are they people squirrels or squirrels?
And we haven't, I think, actually mentioned other animal, like, specifically, like, birds.
Bats. We mentioned bats, because I don't think Trixie is actually wearing around
a person.
An ethnicity of person around.
Yeah.
I think Trixie's wearing an
Like I said,
around.
I can't decide if that's going to get really awkward soon. Like, it's kind of like the vein in Zootopia, where I thought that was really weird, where they were like, we can't really... This race metaphor is goddamn all over the place.
It's difficult. I would say it would be interesting. I think I've only seen like 1 or 2 things where what they do is the things that are animals there aren't any human versions of, and vice versa. So that if you have people dogs, you don't have dogs. And if you have squirrels, you don't have people squirrels.
Right.
Yeah.
The skulls were undamaged, with no indication of how their owners may have died. Strangely, I don't recall having seen any other bones around the cottage. I decided to leave them to their rest. Not that I'd been brave enough to do anything other than nervously stare at them from a distance anyway. With the most obvious thing in the room thoroughly examined, I took a look at the rest of the basement. This whole room looked like something from one of those trashy horror stories I'd read. It was uncanny.
Are we reading a trashy horror story?
Oh
no.
It's probably fanfiction. Part of me hoped this was just a setting of a really well-decorated LARP, but I felt pretty sure that was wishful thinking. And if you don't know what LARP means, you are more than welcome to always ask questions, but LARP actually means live-action roleplay.
Which is, if you were doing a role-playing game,
yes,
and instead of sitting around and talking about what you were doing, you were all up in costumes and doing the actions, that's LARPing.
Yep, that is LARPing.
Mm-hmm.
The basement was littered with black and white feathers. It looked like a bird had been in a fight, but with who? Probably the most out-of-place thing in this murder basement was the small collection of dry cake crumbs scattered across the floor.
I'm also just like, murder basement. We're in the murder basement. Welcome to my home. Would you like to see my murder basement?
It's very lovely. There's a fantastic settee over there with a lovely tea set, and it's got a bit of crumpets and biscuits.
Real estate agent. So I'd love to show you this home. The last owner was such a fanatic. They had so many hobbies. So here's the living room, and downstairs is the murder basement. We'll get to that later.
And you're like...
What?
Wow. I have to tell you, like, real estate agents feel like monsters to me. As a child, I always didn't like them, but, like, even as an adult, oh my god, you're just kind of like, you guys are so, like, pushy and sort of, like, very thoughtless in some ways and very assumptive and very, just, they're sellers. They're
looking at absolutely everyone as a potential client.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating to talk to them. So, anyway, despite there only being a slither of cake left, I felt my stomach tighten. A deep and primal part of me knew it was a bad cake. I took a closer look at the symbol. It was etched into the stone with some kind of tool and gilded with gold paint.
That is the bad cake.
It is the bad cake. It depicted one of the eyes I had seen painted upstairs. It was no less unnerving here, especially given the rest of the room. I think it's time to get out of here. Okay, so I know so far it looks like I spent a whole week running errands and stuff, but trust me, I have my reasons, as I hope you will soon agree. This is where things get a little hard to recall, but I'll do my best in the interest of proving why I'm going to need a few weeks extra to finish my coursework.
Oh, we get back to the actual plot.
Oh, thanks for reading this far, by the way, faculty admin team. I appreciate it, thanks! There was a loud screech and the cottage above me started to shake and creak. I heard a long groan as the basement door shut.
Oh dear.
The cottage continued to shudder. I could hear furniture topple over and slam against walls above me. I need to get out of here! before I could make a move, whips of golden mist curled around the two skulls.
Oh dear.
They jerked around to face me before lifting off the ground as if pulled by puppet strings. No, bad, no! The floating bones remained motionless in the air, their eye sockets boring deep into me.
I don't know if I get it. It's stolen, release,
beyond betrayal, cloud waves, Carcosa.
So just, how about both of us?
Stolen, release, beyond betrayal, cloud waves, Carcosa.
You know how hard it is to read without spaces when you have dyslexia?
Very hard. The skulls called into my mind, a rasping voice that felt as if it came from my own thoughts. As it is felt.
I don't know.
It is okay. Upstairs, the cottage continued to shake, the sound drowning out even my breathing, but the voice remained clear. The rabbit betrayal, how blue starlight, Carcosa. Carcosa, the city, the dread city, trapped forever under the red skies of the Hyades, the stolen crown jewel of a long-forgotten empire.
Is it part of the play?
The setting of The King in Yellow. That much I knew. If the play was anything, it would be here. But that was hardly at the forefront of my mind at this point. The spire, broken body, Carcosa. Hi, what are you? I am the abomination, the malformed stalk, the accursed meat filthy, unclean. Trapped Carcosa, the ashen streets, the dying slumber beneath the lake forever and yet.
I'm the lady in the lake.
Free. But please, I didn't mean to disturb you. My friend, she made me come here. She wants to play the King in Yellow.
Ooh.
At the mention of the King in Yellow, the skulls imploded with a loud crack. The eye sockets split. The craniums almost appeared to collapse into themselves. Ooh. I stumbled backwards, almost falling as the shards of bone and tooth rattled across the stone floor. The cursed play, stolen the monochrome prophet, the broken royal. They had stolen a new owner for the play found. Trapped Carcosa forever, yet I walk again. We will meet again, small white rat.
You've been called a small white rat. What you gonna do about it?
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they could name call you? Bad boys, bad boys.
When they insult you.
When they insult you.
Yeah, see, that's Jens.
A name call you works fine too, though.
I think
insult, name call, it's the same. It still works.
It's okay. I think having one word works better.
It's fine.
It's okay.
The skulls dropped to the floor with a loud crash. The golden glow dissipated, and as the room fell silent, I could feel myself toppling towards the cold floor as my mind disconnected.
I think we have lost some of our sanity.
I think we have.
Bye! There was wool down there too. Did you see that?
I actually missed that part.
It was behind the interface.
Oh, okay.
And so when she collapsed, there was wool.
Oh, okay. My eyes slowly opened. A feeling of grogginess and nausea had taken over my body. I felt my mind spin. I could make out grass fluttering gently in the breeze.
Oh.
I looked up. A sheep gazed down at me as she chewed on some grass. As she stirred, I wandered off, and she wandered off and left me be.
That does not look like a normal sheep.
That does not.
At all. Okay, a wool suitor. That could totally be, what's their name, in a fursuit costume because of the bad eyes.
Maybe? You mean like the bunny?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, I don't remember his name either.
I don't either.
That's right. I took some time to properly come to, but soon I realised I was crumpled in the sheep field on Daffodil Lane. The moon cast white rays across me. I wondered how long I'd been there. What happened? It was here I slowly started to remember my time in the cottage. The decaying rooms, the black and white feathers, the strange symbols, the blood.
The skulls.
And the two skulls speaking into my mind fuzz. How much of that actually happened?
You know what? Sometimes the fumes that mold in tight, environments creates can cause you to hallucinate.
Actually, that is one of the things that they talk about. So it is very important to keep your house clean and make sure that your house has good circulation because carbon dioxide can build up and cause basically mass hallucinations. Even if they're very significant, they could be pretty strong.
Additionally, in consuming mold, including like inhaling large quantities of it, can be completely hallucinogenic and or cause a lot of problems the way
or death.
Mushrooms can, and also death. But also, they have done some really, really interesting research in reference to the Blair Witch Trials. Not the Blair Witch Trials, the Old Witch Trials? whatever. I was saying, anyway, the classic, like, witch trial thingies, the real ones, not the movie. And going, like, in Salem witch trials, thank you. Where that in that town at that time, it was, like, there's evidence that, basically the flower stores were tainted by this type of mold that causes all of the symptoms that people were displaying that they were identifying as witchcraft, which basically was bad food affecting them in a psychotic way.
So what we're saying,
way? That one,
yeah. So basically, what we're saying is, please clean your stuff. Make sure your area is. You can literally see shit that isn't there.
Yep, that one. Anyway, mold house can cause you to see all kind of things.
Yes, you could actually even look it up. It's really an interesting story.
It is.
My eyes slowly started to focus on the grass beside me. There was a box of some kind. Was it? I squinted at it. Whatever it was wrapped in a shiny yellow skin. I reached a weak hand over to it and ran across the top of the box. My suspicion was confirmed. It was a snake skin. My hand curled around the back of the box and felt paper. It was a book.
Oh, there it is.
I grabbed it and pulled it above my eyes where I could see it. Embossed in black amongst the yellow scales was a title. The King in Yellow. I stared at the playbook. How had it gotten there? It was held shut by a golden ribbon, but it would only take a second to undo it. I started to reach for it, my fingers feeling the soft silk. Suddenly a bird screeched a horrid caw. I jumped, almost dropping the book on my face.
Phone on face. Bonk.
I will admit I have been that person. In bed, trying to scroll, phone above my face. Whack! And then I just kept dropping. And I was like, just go to bed. But I don't want.
I don't want to sleep yet. Yeah, all right. So F's in the chat for anybody who has dropped a phone on their face.
Yeah, absolutely. You deserve all the
consideration.
Yeah. Far away, sat in the big jeweled tree, a strange, many-looking magpie stared at me. Mangy magpie. Excuse me. Mangy pie. I thought the feathers in the basement. It was hard to tell at this distance, but it seemed to be staring right at me. Its wide eyes reflecting white moonlight like mirrors. So I thought it was interesting. So there were black feathers in Heidi's shop that were stuck coming out of the vending machine in the back, and now we have black and white feathers. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, okay, so we have bird feathers, wool coming up as a thing, but the bird feathers are never mentioned. It is the wool that has been mentioned.
Except for the bird feathers were mentioned in the basement because they were black and white.
Right, because we
but
finally...
the wool has been mentioned like 4 times.
Yes, it has.
But bird-related things have been mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
Wonder if it's an art project. No, it's some bird collecting shinies because they like them.
You're right. I was about to shout over at it, but it took off and flapped away into the darkness of the night. I lay in the fields a while longer and watched the woolly sheep munch on the grass. The King in Yellow held tightly against my chest. Eventually I managed to pull myself up and started the long trek back to my room. Really?
Do you still have your backpack?
Long backpack.
Mm-hmm.
I messaged
it's a backpack.
Nikita. It's a backpack. I messaged Nikita and told her to meet me in the morning. She was still awake, presumably working on her campaign. She seemed pretty set on retrieving the King in Yellow right then, but when I told her I wasn't going to get back out of bed, she begrudgingly agreed to wait. I shoved the play into my bag and turned my phone off, eventually settling into a disturbed sleep. My dreams were dark and confused. Me and Belle ran through a dark forest. Something terrible followed us. I could feel its eyes boring into my back. I screamed and stopped. In front of me was a steep cliffside. Belle plummeted off into the darkness below. Far across the gap was another cliff edge. I saw myself stood there, looking out at me. A dark figure moved through the woods towards my twin, and with terror I realised I was looking into a mirror. I spun around to face my assailant and found myself facing a grey, blasted landscape. At the centre was a circular pool of black water. Belle stood at the centre of the pool, on top of the water. She faced away from me. A flood of black water rose up from the pit to engulf us. I was blinded by it until a bright light tore through the inky darkness.
Oh, there's the eyeball.
The scene collapsed into itself, and I stood in the abandoned basement. I saw myself as a skeleton, a golden glow surrounding me as I turned to dust and cackled maniacally. The horrible, dirty bird looked down at me from the top of the withered tree with branches like tangled thorns. It opened its beak to call at me, but no sound came out. The bird broke into wisps of cloud vapour and disappeared into the dark night. I looked down, and in my hands was the King in Yellow. The bird's call finally sounded, and I looked up. What was once the tree was now a misty shoreline.
More eyeballs. Oh, look at that.
In front of me was a spire of gleaming ivory, but before my eyes I saw it rot and decay. Behind the terrible city rose a great moon. Mist dripped from it as it emerged from the lake of cloud. I apologize. Sometimes it's really hard because I'm also looking at this screen, just so you know, some lore. I'm actually staring at the screen and more at a little bit of an angle, but sometimes also, like with the white, it bleeds into itself pretty well on the black background. So sometimes where I like black backgrounds, I actually strongly can dislike them a lot because you can just go, the contrast is so strong, other things just like details start to decay.
See, and for me, it's the font is really close together.
Yes.
So different types of fonts have different amount like intended spacing between the letters, and this one has a level of like closeness where everything is just crammed together.
Yeah.
Sort of like, and it fits well with the idea of the story. Like thematically, there's some things about the font that work really well.
It's very frantic, because it's all mushed. Yeah.
Exactly. I say, but yeah, it means that the thing at the end of the moon could very well just be another detail of font.
Right. Mist dripped from it as it emerged from a lake of cloud. The black stars of the Hyades hung above me, pinpricks of oil in the red sky. Watching me from across leagues of rolling white waves stood the solitary figure of the king in yellow. He seemed to travel towards me, closer and closer as his tattered wrappings flapped in the wind. His long bony arms stretched to remove the pallid mask, and I knew I had found myself on the path to a truly terrible fate.
Oh, God.
I woke up. Oh, it was 9 a.m., several hours earlier than I would normally wake up, but after that nightmare, I was glad to be conscious.
Yay!
Nikita liked to tell me off for waking up so late, so I assumed she wouldn't be expecting me awake for a few hours. My head still felt stuffy, so I decided to walk around the university grounds and get some air. It was a pleasant morning. A gentle wind blew softly on my weary eyes. A welcome break from the heat wave. Nikita is your future. Prepare for it. Oh, that's horrifying. That's deeply funny. Good job. Cashew.
I'm like, that's her campaign poster. That's freaking amazing. She looks terrifying.
She does. Still, it seemed like it was going to be another warm summer day. Unfortunate. Also, I love the raised arms. Part of my brain's I wonder if there's supposed to be some sort of interesting symbolism as a part of it, but I don't know. I've always wondered people using silhouettes like that, if they've actually got something else going on, the figures that are molded in, with the shadows.
Well, the thing is it very much makes her at first glance look like she has antlers and is more horrifying.
Yeah.
And just going,
It was the last thing I needed with my albinism. I'd had to put on a lot of sun shampoo on my fur. I love that concept. I didn't realize your character was actually an albino. That is really interesting. So I've actually, I don't personally know any people who have albinism directly, but I actually worked at a location where we regularly actually had somebody show up when I worked at McDonald's actually, who had albinism.
See, and I was actually, when I lived up in Fort Collins, there was, a really nice lady, and she had just incredible albinism, and I'd see her occasionally shopping at the grocery store I was at.
I think actually that was the one.
And perfectly white eyelashes and hair, and just no color to her skin.
She
bright
squinted
pink eyes
all the time.
She seemed like everything seemed super fucking bright for her. She was 100% squinty, but she's really interesting to look at.
Yeah, she was just, again, I thought it was really interesting. I think she also had a family and kids.
I don't remember.
But I don't remember. I remember her coming in though, with kids several times.
But I remember all the time just you seem like you look like you can't see, dear.
Yeah, she's caught squinting, putting her hands over her eyes.
I'm I appreciate that you wouldn't want to look unfriendly, but she would have benefited from some sunglasses.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, I have known albino rats.
I have known albino snakes.
Because we had an albino rat that part of my family when I was younger. So
neat.
My first stepdad, he went to school for psychology, and not for psychology, but it was part of it was a combined major. He wanted to be a counselor,
okay.
but an actual therapist. Anyway, but not because psychology is a generalized field.
Yeah. There's
a lot of different types. But anyway, so when he was doing his various experiments, they give you they have you use a rat to learn about conditioned behavior and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, I don't know what they do with the rats, but you have an option to keep it. And he kept his and brought him home.
Aww.
I don't know what happens to them if you don't keep them, but he kept his, and so he brought home this adorable, skinny little albino rat, because all of the conditioning experiments were to do with, food for the most part. So he was a skinny boy, he was really cute, and we named him Scrawny because he was so tiny, and then he grew into a 4-pound rat. This freaking huge,
big boy,
large, chunky boy. You could wear him on your shoulder like a scarf.
That's adorable. The Unicampus was really nice, albeit a little bit old-fashioned.
He was your classic, white to the point of being a little bit creamy yellow kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just red eyes.
Nice. It looked like somewhere that would be haunted, and actually was, albeit only by the occasional gaunt-looking PhD student.
Haunted by those who do not sleep because they are in their doctoral program.
Not that I was complaining. Whether my Am I yawning? Excuse me. God, I feel it. I'm just really tired. Oh, God,
probably
terrible
is.
nightmares. Whether my experience in the basement was real or not, I'd had quite enough of ghosts for now. I walked past the old clock tower. It would have looked a lot more impressive if it wasn't broken. I don't know why you don't replace it with a digital one or something. Although, obviously, I'm aware that it really isn't your department. That was an attack on you, faculty admins.
Remembers who you're writing to. He just puts it in there as part of your, please understand why I need more time for my coursework. It's so great.
Below that was the old statue of the university's founder, P.H. Lovecraft. He was a speciesist dickhead, but now he's just dead.
Oh my God, that's
H.P. Lovecraft.
So good. Okay, but that's so good because he was a racist fuckhead.
Because he was. Okay, so one of the things is they have talked about it. Well, and some people have tried to defend it, going, oh, no, this thing is like, no, actually, around the time, people even thought that H.P. Lovecraft was extreme, even for the time for being
even
racist.
For the more racist time that it was in, people thought he was real racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he also, like, just find out what the name of his cat was.
I was going to say, the thing is it's right out there. It's not subtle. It's not a matter of, like vague speculation or whatever. It just is. He was, like, self-professed.
Yeah, that's what he did. Okay, so now he's just dead. I found one of Nikita's student presidency posters.
Anyway, I really appreciate that being in this game. So yeah. I'm just going to say that. I appreciate the creators putting that in there.
Also, that feels really pointed in regards to the fact that a lot of people have actually fought back now, destroying a lot of statues of people who have been racists, who have been deeply horrible people. But everybody basically, who were just awful people and going, no.
Do not memorialize these people as lauded heroes.
Yes, and actually, that's what I think has been so interesting with the, advent, as it were, of social media. It has actually allowed a lot of people to share knowledge and go, hey, what you've been told historically, so if you're an American like the both of us, even one thing that I like to share is going, by the way, the Founding Fathers and all the Pilgrims were not the deeply disempowered, oppressed, people who were just looking for a better life because they were so, basically
stifled where they came from, yeah.
and abused and whatever else. They were actually extremists. They were they were radical extremists who all tended to work towards being more religious in that very highly extremist kind of cultish way.
And who really wanted capitalism and slavery and...
They wanted profit, and they actually conspired to kill the previous king, which is, I'm not saying monarchies are good things, but they were pretty nasty. And they were actually thrown out, is what happened. They were banished.
So the version that I got as a young American in a Christian household was very much of the poor, oppressed Puritans just wanted to worship God properly and freely, and everyone was stopping them, and it was terrible because they were stamping on their Bibles and kicking and burning down their churches and telling them you can't pray and be happy and love your God.
Yeah, and it's and
that's not what happened at all.
No, it's not. And it was pretty daunting, though. On the plus side, she changed her Logan to something slightly less fascist.
Less fascist.
Oh, great. Nikita is your future.
Okay, but
prepare for it.
What was it? Okay, so that reminds me a little bit of the thing from Kim Possible with the, wash, rinse, obey shampoo.
Right.
And at least it's honest. But also it reminds me of, God, I might have just lost it. But this Tumblr post. Oh yeah, where they were talking about, so in their high school, they let the kids decide what sort of, government body, government structures they were going to have, run for student council president, right? Mm-hmm. And they had a fascist party, because they're like, let's do it as a social experiment, with our psych class and stuff like that. We're going to run a fascist party, right? And the school shut it down because they were winning. Now, not fully cited, just a Tumblr post, but it was really interesting.
Was it fascist? I thought it was a socialist party.
Nope, it was fascism. It was fascism.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is fascinating.
They were running a fasci party, so less fascist poster is good.
Oh, okay, fascinating. Although in retrospect, that might have been worse. Oh, there was a box of leaflets under it. Nikita was certainly prepared for next year's election. It was almost a shame the caretakers would probably take this stuff down by the next week. I kind of wanted to take a look at one of the leaflets, if just out of morbid curiosity. Took a look to sate my masochistic side, left the leaflets alone. I'd had enough of Nikita. I said you kind of wanted to. It doesn't sound like you were super into it.
It sounds like we're also a little bit distracted. Like you're walking past it and looking,
Yeah.
going, I could totally grab one of those, and then you just keep going.
Yeah, and like I've had ones where I feel like it's more directly like you're far more interested, and so this case I think you're far less interested. You're just slightly interested because it is an option.
You're vaguely interested, but you're
Yeah.
also kind of the, I don't really need to hurt myself more today.
Right.
But I think a lot of it just has to do with lack of focus.
Right, I was bound to get an earful from Nikita later today. No need to expose myself to more of her. Besides, it was a long time till the election. I was sure I'd hear about her candidacy more than enough over the next half year. I eventually got back to my room and took a quick shower, making sure to cover myself in sun shampoo.
I appreciate that they left the cereal on the floor.
Uh-huh.
I do. I'm sorry it's there. And honestly, at this point, it's probably so sticky and squelchy and gross that my whole brain is just like, and it smells, your whole room smells like sour milk.
Yeah, or right now it still smells pretty sugary, but I don't know.
But close to, okay, then maybe not the whole room, but like if you walk over there, it smells like near it, sour milk.
It's weird. Do they have cow anthros?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, of course they do, because we saw Belle.
Oh, that's true. So, what kind of milk is it?
I would be interested too.
Okay, so weird
Could be
thing,
soy milk.
that's actually part of the reason why they have been super confused over the years about like various old recipes was because they did the exact same thing that we do in our recipes. You just put in, need a
Milk.
half a cup of milk or a half a pound of butter or a tablespoon of, whatever. And it was like
sugar.
Sugar.
And the
you
thing
go,
is you're not saying cane sugar.
No,
you're not saying
or refined granulated sugar.
You're not saying pasteurized 2% cow milk.
Yes.
Because the thing is
Or
if
whole milk, or-
if you take that recipe to a completely other culture, if they don't know this culture, they don't know what it is.
Also,
and there's so many old recipes that we've tried to translate, and I mean like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
That we have a really hard time with until you get a historian that's like, okay, well, they didn't have cows in that area. What they had was goats or yaks or something like that. So if there's milk in there, it's going to be from those, not from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And also when it says beans, they didn't really have beans. You actually translated that it's more like lentils, which is more like cracked peas.
Right.
That kind of thing. And so it's like you have to have your, your anthropologist and your historian there too, instead of just your linguist to figure out what the recipe really is.
Right. I was really lucky not to get burnt yesterday, given how long I was out. Maybe the spores from that cottage rejuvenated the skin and left a healthy glow on your fur? Maybe the spores? Oh, God. Anyway, we're out of time.
I guess we're going to have to find out if,
gotta-
the mold really does work well as a complexion aid.
Also, do we have a glow or a glow?
Glow. You are now
Radioactive.
radioactive.
So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. It actually helps us out with the algorithm. The more that you engage with our videos, it actually tells basically YouTube that we are here, people like our stuff, and it will promote us more. If not, please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi and our Patreon and our Twitch and our Twitter and our Instagram. And God, we have things linked down below. Please feel free to go check those things out. And I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!